Hi everybody, welcome to Empath Academy Day 1. I'm Stephanie Levinston, intuitive channel and empath, self-proclaimed empath. So this is going to be a week-long course that is designed to connect with fellow empaths, perhaps to tune you in to what you already know about yourself, and perhaps even to expose you to things that you didn't know about yourselves. Perhaps you are an empath and you don't know it, and so going through some of these characteristics is going to help you to express that part of yourself, because it is a superpower, it is a gift, and that is my intention in creating this class, this academy, is for you to recognize that it is just that when you are balanced and when your energetics are clear and when you are tapped in and tuned in to the truth, your own truth, that your expression of your empath abilities will serve you, that it does not have to feel burdensome, and at times it does. So let's talk about what an empath is first, and then we'll go into some ways and personal experiences that I can share with you that you might resonate with. And essentially what we're going to do as the classes unfold is talk about ways to maintain your internal connection and balance. Because what my deepest desire in creating this is that those of you who identify with these skills, gifts, and abilities of being an empath, being one who is highly sensitive and attuned to others, is that you will recognize in yourself that you can turn this on when it will serve you, that you do not have to be open all the time and subjected to a barrage of external energetic input from others, but that you can take full responsibility for your emotional state. It can stay clean and only about you, and you can be present to other people's experiences and use the intuitive capacities that empaths generally have in a heightened way to serve you in the highest good. That's my desire. So let's dive in a little bit. First, I am using this book as a reference point. So this is by Dr. Judith Orloff. She is an MD, a psychiatrist, a best-selling author, and this book is called The Empath Survival Guide. Highly recommend it. I feel like I am basing this class off of what I have learned through this book because it has been so enormously helpful to me. If I could show you the pages here, they're underlined. I have highlights. I have notes in the margins, if you can see. And so it's been a tremendous tool for me to recognize in a deeper way aspects of myself and the way that I work and how I can clean things up to use these skills even more abundantly and in an even more focused manner than I even have been before. So, what's an empath? Let me grab my notes here. An empath, as described by Dr. Orloff. So I'm going to share what she says, and then I'm going to tell you where I think maybe a little bit differently or where you might even expand on these definitions. Those with a highly sensitive and sometimes reactive neurological system. So yeah, we're highly sensitive. I'm so sorry, my dog is moving the tripod. So we are highly sensitive and sometimes reactive, and that's not a bad thing to be. It's just something that first let's just notice and get curious about. When do you feel that you're highly sensitive and perhaps neurologically reactive? And so what this means really in terms of neurological reactivity, for example, empaths are very sensitive to their surroundings, and if you are a visual empath, then sights can be something very alerting to you. And this is just a personal example. I can be sitting quietly somewhere having my thoughts or doing, I don't know, maybe a meditation or just kind of some quiet time, and if someone moves on the periphery of where I'm sitting, even though those beings live in my house and I would fully expect them to move, I can startle. It is kind of an overreaction to something that is just very commonplace. One of my family members walking by or moving or sneezing or something, it can jar me. So that's an example. Empaths tend to absorb the energy around us, both positive and negative, if we have to label it, right? We know what positive and negative energy feel like to us. So it would, of course, be our preference to only absorb the positive. But empaths are exposed to all types of different energies because we do have this gift, this knowingness of tuning into what another's experience is, even if it's not clear on the outside. So for example, you might be standing next to someone in a public arena, and you might, out of politeness, turn and say, "How are you today?" And they might say, "Oh, I'm good, thank you." And you will know, as an empath, they're not good. Something might just, the truth of that exchange, the truth of that situation might just tell you that what they're saying and what is on the outside, their facial expression and body language, does not match with what you feel is true for them on the inside. That's just an example. Research shows, this is what I love research, that this high sensitivity of being an empath affects around 20% of the population. So we could say 20% of those walking the earth are true empaths, which obviously is the minority, right? So if you feel often like it's harder to find people that you resonate with, like it's harder to find your tribe, you got to go through a lot of people before you're finding the right ones that feel good to you, that feel like a good match, then remember, only 20% of the population, she's saying, have these empath characteristics. And so it makes sense. It makes sense that that 80% that you don't resonate with can feel like a whole lot, because it is a whole lot. Often, we've been shamed for our sensitivities. We've been called too sensitive, too emotional, like if you're, for childhood, for example, a lot of these kids who are deep feelers, who are true empaths, are labeled as being too sensitive or crying too much or too emotional. Needing time to retreat is one signal of an empath. And so if these kids are taking time for solitude and needing to retreat in these noisy classroom environments for periods of time, well, then guess what? They might be labeled as withdrawn. And they might even go all the routes of getting evaluated for having social issues or social problems, because they need regular phases of time where they can retreat and just regroup. And our current traditional school model does not honor that usually. It does not allow for that typically. So if any of these are resonating with you, you might be an empath. We tend to have a low threshold for sensory overload. Yes. So think about that for a minute. So what we take in through our five senses, and we're going to talk about the sixth sense another time, but what we take in through our five senses can feel so much more heightened and intense when you are an empath. For example, what I listed earlier, like just having something visual happen that's unexpected, if you're an empath with visual sensitivities, can affect you. Those of us who are sensitive to sound, same thing. 4th of July, my least favorite holiday. It's so loud. I cannot predict when the firecrackers are going to go off, and it feels like this assault on my hearing system, and it sends me into a kind of a jarred place. I feel like I want to go somewhere quiet, but where do you escape when it's happening all around you? For those of us that are sensitive to smells, your partner or loved one might be making a wonderful dinner, and you walk in, and for whatever reason something hits you through the olfactory sense that is just overwhelming because you have empath tendencies, and rather than yum, you're like, oh gosh, that's so strong. That's another signal. So, and another one visually for me is clutter. So if I walk into a room in my home and there's stuff everywhere, I feel like I shut down. I feel like from the mental state of things, I just start to shut down. I have to leave, and then I have to insist that whoever, my kids who made the mess, or maybe my husband can help me to organize some things that have just gotten a little out of hand, needs to happen immediately in order for me to come back into alignment, into that centered place where I can function beautifully again. It really, really is important to recognize where your sensitivities are and honor them. You don't have to be any different than you are, but find ways to create more ease for yourself with these things. Being an empath means you might be affected by other people's energies and have an innate ability to intuitively feel and perceive others. As I mentioned, someone might look one way on the outside